I feel like we're about to break the internet. That's how I'm feeling about asking this particular question, but I love the fact that you have reinforced every little step when consistent can make a big impact. And today is Earth Day, a global reminder that the choices that we make, from the cars that we drive to the food on our plates, it will impact our planet and, of course, our own health. Now, the move towards plant-based eating is gaining momentum for a lot of reasons, not just for environmental motivation, but for health ones as well. People are, I think, ditching the meat, dairy and animal products in favor of greens, grains, legumes and nuts, all in the pursuit of better energy, improved digestion. It's all about the gut and reduced disease risk. But is eating plant-based actually better for your body? And is it right for everybody? Because we know we are all built different. Well, to help us cut through all of the confusion, we are joined by registered dietitian and good friend of our show, Megan Pence-Clates, here to explore the science, the benefits and the realities of going plant-based, because it's not all black and white. In fact, it's all green, and we're okay with that. Megan, how are you?
Hello, it's good to be here. Well, thank you.
Happy Earth Day. I would imagine this is an important day for you as well, because you get to kind of bring some really big themes out. We talk about plant-based and often veganism as the same thing. How would you differentiate the two terms, or are they the same?
No, in actual fact, your veganism is going to be exactly that. It contains absolutely no animal products.
No animal product or byproduct.
That's
nothing
right.
that you can directly.
That's your veganism.
Okay.
Okay, when you're plant-based is where the majority of what you eat is going to be from plants.
Aha.
So it still does make, a space for something that might be animal-based, but obviously really reducing it and not necessarily even every day.
Again, I'm grossly oversimplifying it, but the one feels more of an ideological choice, the other more informed by nutrition and maybe sustainability, but they're kind of both in the same lane. So I think we're going to look at it from that perspective of what can be benefits and what are some of the pitfalls that we often encounter. And when we look at the benefits, why should we go plant-based? What is the motivation?
No, absolutely. So what is really something that's good to look at, if we just look from the point of view of plant-based, is that it is better for our gut. And we are also, and remember with that, when we're looking at it today being Earth Day, you also do want to see if you can eat local. And you want to eat seasonal. And you also want to ensure that when you're making these choices, they must be whole foods that you're also choosing. So we're going back to eating good home-cooked food that we are choosing, basically coming from our own environment here at home. So that's going to look at it from the Earth Day perspective, and then from a health perspective, it's got vast amounts of literature behind it that shows all the health benefits.
I've kind of almost gotten to the point where I see plants as medicine. I really do. And I mean, from a fuel perspective, everybody is slightly different, but in terms of the nutritional benefits we get from them, absolute gold. Are there particular conditions, pre-existing conditions, that benefit would be helped greatly by going plant-based?
No, absolutely. So the moment we start looking at the what we call the non-communicable diseases in particular, so you're looking at things like your diabetes and helping with control of blood sugar levels, and then you're looking at heart disease and helping to control, maybe the buildup of plaque, for example. So here we also do see all those great antioxidants that we find in our plants, which we don't get in animal products. And that also helps to, help to reduce the risk of things like cancer. So we immediately, making really good choices. And then we're coming back to our microbiome and our gut and the increase in fiber intake, which actually then also improves things like our brain health.
Yeah, our emotional well-being. I think we've established so much is going on in this kind of epicenter of our body. Can we talk about the 3 Ps? Protein, protein, and protein. Okay, where do we get it? Where do we get our muscle-building protein if we're going plant-based?
And I think that's very often the question that is asked, how are we going to get? But we can. So just to give you a bit of an idea, quinoa, for example, is what we call a complete protein. So what we're looking for in protein, because our body can't make protein, but it can take the building blocks, the amino acids, and make a different enzyme or protein or hormone that we need. But so what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to take in things like legumes, and that'll include your chickpeas and your edamame beans, and, including things like rice into that. So immediately when you have the combination, you've got a complete protein. And then, of course, looking at soya and tofu and bringing that in. Sometimes people haven't grown up with it, but give it a chance and incorporate it. And
Flavor will help. Flavor will help in that space. Yeah.
And that's the one thing people must remember. You can have the most fantastic flavors that come from a plant-based diet, adding all your herbs and spices, etc.
And there's no calories in spices and herbs.
That's right.
I've been told that many times. And
no salt.
It's good. Yeah, exactly. And it's worth kind of reminding yourself that you can still enjoy it. You don't have to only think about things from a nutritional perspective. What are some of the biggest mistakes we make when getting into the plant-based space? Because I would imagine a lack of knowledge is going to be a major stumbling block.
Absolutely. So what we often do is we'll go and we'll buy things that are packaged off the shelf, that have traveled a far way, and it has already been processed, but it is plant-based.
Yeah.
And so what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to move out of that and really concentrate on what's back home here and what we can use, and then incorporate those whole foods. And what's really good, we must never forget about plant-based, is that it makes us feel really full. It's got a lovely volume to it. Yes. So we actually also feel satiated. So that's a very important thing to look at. Some of the other mistakes is a lot of processing that takes place when it comes to it, and then adding in lavish amounts of sauces and salt.
Which often have the sugar or the high salt content in them.
Yes.
Absolutely. Love this. Ticked every box, and we're going to continue on this path. We are educating ourselves on going plant-based. What are those fundamental differences between veganism, which I'm starting to feel really is a cultural set as much as it is a nutritional choice. But I think most importantly, we need your input. So please join us on the social media streets. Let us know if you've tried, if you've made the complete adaptation. What has worked for you? What are some of those meals that you absolutely love that give you that complete diet? As Megan says, we want the 3 Ps. Yes, our protein, but we want the energy, the health benefits that come from a plant-based diet if we can unlock it. And of course, we are inspired throughout today. Zanele, did any of those little comments tick your boxes? Are you thinking slightly differently about your plant-based methodology?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back, you beauties. Hopefully you are inspired this morning to think about your planet differently, being World Earth Day, but also what we put into our body. And we are back with dietitian Megan Pence-Clates. And now it's time to talk about the fine print, because while plant-based eating can be incredibly beneficial, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. I think that's life in general. So how do we know if it's right for us and our body, and what should we watch out for along the way? So Megan, let's start with that. I think people can be kind of loosely differentiated into children, pregnant women, athletes. We love to have our little subgroups, but
yes,
when speaking of a plant-based kind of notion, is it for everybody? Is it fine to take your child through those early developmental stages of their growth through that phase only on plant-based? Is this a stage-driven kind of question?
Yeah, I think it's really important that because of the increased requirements during childhood and pregnancy, etc., we don't want to minimize certain food groups where we know they can basically, the nutrient intake can be affected for that specific group. So when it comes to children, we are looking at higher calcium requirements and more iron, for example, even in your teenagers. So we want to ensure adequate intakes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the amounts that we are used to eating, particularly as South Africans.
Yeah, for sure.
So incorporating all the food groups into a person's diet, particularly if you have increased requirements, is a really good thing to do. But focusing on increasing the intake of plants in a simple way, it doesn't have to be loads of, let's say, salads and stuff. You can also incorporate it into vegetable soups where your volume is not maybe as big, but you're getting all the nutrition. And then
it's called hiding the vegetables, Megan. We all do it. We hide the vegetables in soups and stews. Okay, we'll do that. And that says to me, if you are going to make a choice to go the vegan route, then you need the education. You need to understand what nutrients your body, your child, that phase of life is going to require, so you can offset that. There is so much info online, and I would imagine you've even stopped looking online because a lot of it must push your buttons.
It does.
Biggest myths and misconceptions when it comes to plant-based?
I think the one thing I hear most is it's expensive. And that's really not true.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be.
It can be. Quite right. And I need people to know that when you start looking and choosing local and you buy sensibly, and, you know, when you're not throwing away half of what you bought, then that doesn't become expensive anymore. And a person can be really sensible about buying larger quantities and sharing it. And then, of course, also remembering that there are freezing processes and you'll still keep a lot of the nutrition that you require. The other thing that also happens is people say, well, protein is an issue. It can be. But if you actually incorporate the right types of plant foods into, plant proteins into your diet, you will get the protein you require. With your very high intake, you're also looking at something like calcium for some people, for iron, vitamin B12. Those can sometimes be the ones that we earmark and say be cautious of. But once again, if you choose wisely, bringing in B12 would be your things like your whole grains, for example, and your legumes, your nuts and your seeds. We can bring that in, also calcium with your almonds. So there is a way to navigate it, but we have to obviously be very good about our choices.
And it's worth knowing that generally our supplements are derived from these foods. So, and I think it'll probably push into the expensive space if it's come from afar and it's been processed. That's suddenly when the plant-based has that big, price on it. It's difficult to know how to round this off, maybe with the supplementation, because maybe that could be a fast track for people that maybe feel they aren't having those vital things like the iron, like the B12 that you mentioned. How should we approach supplementation?
Definitely, it's always a good idea to look at firstly what are you part of? Are they children? We've already discussed that. Pregnant people, we know they've got increased.
Cool.
But for us, the rest of us, be aware. If you're not sure, have a blood test. Very often, if you go for a B12, it'll pick up if there's a deficiency. You can then definitely take a supplement. Just to remember that with your supplementation, always first eat before you supplement. Same with something like iron. And once again, don't just necessarily supplement unless it's a multivitamin. Because if you're taking in a single nutrient over a long period, you might actually be taking in too much.
Okay, and then the body stops being proactive in that sense.
Exactly.
So many jumping off points, and I love this. I don't want this hopefully to be an intimidating thing, but rather exciting to find that path that matches you. Thank you for all of the people that you help daily and us. We lean very much on Megan, and I love the fact that we can get practical about these big choices and make little choices every day. They make a big difference, and whether you are plant curious or already halfway there or have gone all in, Earth Day, the perfect time to reflect on how your plate affects your health and the world around you. We are all connected, and with expert guidance, some plant-based choices can be very powerful and doable. Well, let's see if we can inspire you with some full-on positive energy this morning to go out there and feed your entire block. Zanele, what you got for us?